whereas Ismael Silva is from the favela, and he's got no real possibility of becoming a radio star in the 1930s.
There's no point mincing words. That's because Alves was white and Silva was black. In fact, most samba composers at the time were Afro-Brazilians and didn't have an opportunity to get in front of the cameras. This is probably a good time to mention something called the myth of racial democracy. It's basically the idea that Brazilians are blind to race, and you hear it a lot. For example, here's Marcelo Bernardes, a prominent choro musician from Rio.
For me, the main strength of Brazilian music is the love above racial difference, the love between races, and the celebration of this love in music and dance and singing.
There is a lot of truth to what Marcelo says. Brazilians across the board are really proud of Afro-Brazilian culture, but that doesn't mean there's no racism. Samba scholar Samuel Araujo says discrimination happens every day at his apartment building in Rio.
In any private building, a thing called service entrance, which is reserved to the people who work in the residences. And this is usually used by the building porters and so on to send people of color, you know. So if you are a black lawyer and you are visiting your friend, you'll be directed to the service entrance.
The hard thing about addressing these issues is that for many Brazilians, it's almost taboo to suggest that the racial democracy isn't real. If you're thinking, what does all this have to do with samba? The answer is a lot, actually. Radio Nacional happened to be owned by a guy named Getúlio Vargas, who ruled Brazil as a populist dictator on and off for almost 25 years.
Para dizer que voltei a fim de defender os interesses mais legítimos do povo e promover as medidas indispensáveis ao bem-estar dos trabalhadores.
Here he is giving a speech in 1951, talking up the virtues of the Brazilian worker. When Vargas came into power in 1930, he was in a rough situation. The previous government was tied to rich landowners in the countryside, so we needed to find new allies. Here's Samuel Araujo.
And he made a revolution against his interests. He had to find other supporters for his modernizing regime.
Those new supporters were workers in the cities, many of whom were black. And that changed the way the political class talked about race in Brazil. Here's Brian McCann.
What's becoming prominent in the 1930s is this idea that Brazil is culturally strong in large part because of its Afro-Brazilian inheritance, and that cultural strength is what's going to make Brazil distinctive among modern nations and is going to help to make it a competitor among modern nations in other ways, politically, economically, etc.
So many ideologists of the new state, Estado Novo, started fabricating this idea of the new Brazilian identity that now co-opted black culture to some degree. And the example of black culture co-opted in that way was precisely samba.
The Estado Novo helped push samba as national culture. Soon enough, samba wasn't seen as a black thing anymore. It was a Brazilian thing for everybody to take part in. Case in point, Carmen Miranda. Miranda was neither black or even Brazilian. She was born in Portugal. But in the Brazil of the 1930s, that didn't stop her from becoming the queen of samba.
Meu pandeiro do samba, tamborim de bamba, já é de madrugada. Vou-me embora, chorando, com meu coração sorrindo. E vou deixar todo mundo valorizando a batucada. Adeus, meu pandeiro do samba, tamborim de bamba, já é de madrugada. Vou-me embora, chorando, com meu coração sorrindo. E vou deixar todo mundo valorizando a batucada.
was Carmen Miranda with Adeus Batucada. One of the first white Brazilians to become prominent as a samba composer was Noel Rosa. He started out as a med school student, but it quickly became clear that the studious life was not for him. Brian McCann.
His jaw was crushed at birth, and so he was disfigured, and as a result of that, he always had tremendous insecurity and didn't like to be seen in the daylight. But at night, he would be free to become himself out in the cabarets and the dive bars.
Instead of becoming a doctor, Rosa became a gifted lyricist with a knack for capturing the poetry of daily life. One of his best loved songs was Conversa de Botequim, about the latter, one of Rio's many corner bars.
Por favor, me trazer depressa uma boa média que não seja requentada, um pão bem quente com manteiga, fecha um guardanapo, um copo d'água bem gelada, fecha a porta da igreja com muito cuidado. E não estou disposto a ficar exposto ao sol pra perguntar ao seu freguês do lado qual foi o resultado do futebol. Se você ficar limpando a mesa, não me levanto nem pago a despesa. Vá pedir ao seu patrão uma caneta, um tinteiro, um envelope e um cartão. Não se esqueça de me dar palitos e um cigarro pra espantar mosquitos. Vá dizer ao charuteiro que me empreste umas revistas, um espelho, um cinzeiro. Seu garçom, por favor.
Conversa de Botequim, written by Noel Rosa. One of Rosa's favorite topics to write about was the malandro. The malandro is an important character archetype in samba. He's a kind of rogue, a trickster.
Kind of tough guy, but a debonair tough guy. Tough guy who wears a scarf around his neck and who wears well-shined shoes and has a kind of high-stepping, swinging way of walking through the streets of downtown Rio.
The malandro typically lived in a favela, but wasn't interested in breaking his back at a low-wage job. He got by with his wits, even if that meant breaking the law here and there.
But they're also associated with samba, because this is what they do. They hang out in bars or on street corners, shaking the matchbox in a samba rhythm, and singing sambas and inventing sambas.
The malandro becomes such a beloved character in Rio that a whole genre of malandro samba emerges.
I would say later in the 1930s, you start to get more complex songs that are linking this idea of the malandro to an idea of national identity and seeing Brazil itself in some ways as a malandro. Being a malandro starts to be seen as being a good thing because it means being clever, being crafty and stylish all at the same time.
One of the masters of the genre was Wilson Batista, who composed the classic malandro samba, Chico Brito. This is a cover from 1979 by Paulinho da Viola.
Lá vem o Chico Brito, descendo o morro nas mãos do Peçanha. É mais processo, é mais uma façanha. Chico Brito fez do baralho seu melhor esporte. É valente no morro